As a former international student himself, and as chairman of the UK Council for International Student Affairs, UKISA, our first speaker is a fantastic champion for international students here in the UK. He was the youngest and also the first Indian-born Chancellor of a Russell Group University in the UK. If that wasn't enough, he is also the founder chairman of the Cobra Beer Partnership and has received a knighthood from the Queen for his services to business and entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, for his first time at Bournemouth University, please give a very warm welcome to Lord Karan Bilimoria.
Thank you very much, Sonal. And I think before I say anything else, a huge, huge thanks and congratulations to Sonal, the Vice-Chancellor, the Chair of Governors, to Daniel, your student president, for putting on this amazing, amazing event. So congratulations. It's the only university in this country that does this, by the way, so you're very lucky. So I was born in India and brought up in India. I'll tell you a story about two young brothers in South India, the tip of India in a state called Kerala. These two young boys, the nearest school was 6 kilometers away, a remote village. The older brother got a place at the school, the younger brother didn't. So he would follow his older brother, walk those 6 kilometers, and sit outside the classroom window of his older brother's classroom. It was a hut. And the older brother would pass the textbooks through the window to his younger brother. And that was the only way that young boy could start to learn. He eventually got a place at school. He did very well. He was very clever. He got a scholarship to come to the London School of Economics. It took his family 1 year to raise the money just for his travel, his clothing, for him to come and study in the United Kingdom. He did brilliantly at the LSE. He joined the Indian Foreign Service. He became an ambassador. He became head of the Indian Foreign Service. And then he became the first Dalit. They used to call them untouchables. The first Dalit President of India, President Narayanan. And I had the privilege of knowing him. And the reason I tell you that story is it just shows in life that anyone can get from anywhere to anywhere. And the fact that we're all over here, we're very, very lucky to have the opportunity to study in the United Kingdom with the best universities in the world, along with the United States of America. And talking about the United States of America, I did an executive education program at Harvard Business School. It took me 9 years. I'm a very slow learner. And when we graduated, our final lecture was given by one of the famous professors at the Harvard Business School, Professor Clay Christensen. Any list of business thinkers, professors, he's always right up there. And he walked in, and there were 200 of us, 2 sections, and giant man, 6'8". And he started his lecture by apologizing. And you never apologize at the beginning of a lecture. And he said, "I'm really sorry, this is my first talk in a long time because I've been ill, I had cancer, I beat the cancer, and then I got a stroke. I've now recovered from my stroke," and he said, "You see, it hasn't affected my movements, but it's affected my brain. When I speak, I sometimes can't find the words that I want to say." He said, "In this talk, if that happens, can you shout out the words?" We had to shout out the words many times. And at the end of that talk, he was in tears, and we were in tears. And I wish I'd heard that talk when I was sitting where you're sitting now. I wish I'd heard that talk earlier in my life, because he made 2 points. First, he said, have you ever stopped and thought, what is the purpose of my life? And I'll ask you that question. Have you stopped and thought, what is the purpose of your life? It's very individual. There's no right or wrong answer here. And linked to that, he said, how will you measure your life? And again, there is no right answer. It's a very individual question. I ask you to stop and think about that as you're embarking on this journey here at Bournemouth University. I was brought up in India. I went to school there, went to 7 different schools. I came to study over here as a 19-year-old. And I'm the 3rd generation in my family on both sides to be educated here in the United Kingdom. Both my grandfathers, my mother, my mother's brother, and now me. And now my son is at a British university. So 4th generation. And I tell you, building on what Connor was saying earlier, you will all be ambassadors for Britain and British universities for the rest of your life. My mother, who's 81 years old, to this day keeps in touch with her university friends. They are her best friends and have been her best friends throughout her life. And the same will be for you. Now, who knows what will happen when you're here at university? I read law at Cambridge University, and while I was there, I came up with my business idea. It was not a eureka moment. I didn't go running through the streets of Cambridge naked. It was an idea that I had because I loved beer. Now, it's not unusual. And I used to try all these beers that I really didn't like. And I found a lot of the lagers were very fizzy and harsh and bland and bloating. And an English friend of mine introduced me to real ale, to English ale. I recommend it. It's great stuff. And I enjoyed the ale in a pub, and I found the ale really smooth and delicious. And then I would go to Indian restaurants. And by the way, the favorite food in this country is curry. We're a nation of curryholics. Everyone eats curry in the whole country. There are 12,000 Indian restaurants. And some of the best Indian food in the world is over here. So I'd go to Indian restaurants lots, and you got spicy food, and you want something cold and refreshing, and I'd order a cold lager, and it would be fizzy and harsh and bland and bloating and really difficult to drink. And the combination of bloating lager, spicy food, uncomfortable. So I thought, this is not right. And then the idea evolved. Why don't I bring out a beer that has the refreshment of a lager, the smoothness of an ale combined, that has a globally appealing taste, that appeals to men and women alike, that accompanies all food, including Indian food and curry. And that was my idea for Cobra Beer. Now, business ideas, you don't have to invent something that never existed before. Quite often it's just being dissatisfied with something and thinking, I can do it better, I can do it differently, I can change the marketplace forever. So who knows, you might come up with your own business idea here, while you're here. How many of you want to start your own business one day? Can you just put up your hands? Can I just see? Great, excellent. By the way, you need luck. And I've attended 3 business schools, and I've never done a case study on luck. Okay, I chair the business school at Cambridge, and one of our professors there, Mark Durand, defines the word serendipity. If I say to you, what's serendipity, you'd say fortuitous, lucky. He says serendipity is seeing what everyone else sees, but thinking what no one else has thought. And the best definition of luck that I've ever come across is when determination meets opportunity. If you're not determined, you will not even see that opportunity. And I see it as waves that are going past you in your life. And if you're determined, you might just catch one of those waves. If you're not determined, those waves will keep going past you all your life. And when you start in business, those of you put your hands up, in fact, in life, there is one word that you need, and I've seen with successful entrepreneurs, and it's a very short word. Guts. You need guts. A lot of you put up your hand saying you want to start your own business. How many of you will actually have the guts to do it one day? It takes a lot of guts to give up all the other opportunities, a job, a career, and you take that risk, you take that plunge, and you start your business. But then the second aspect of the guts is, how many of you, when you start your business, have the guts to stick with it when others would give up? And I've nearly lost my business 3 times. And each of those 3 times was very different. The last time was in the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, when it came this close to losing everything. And you know, each one of those situations was different, but there was 3 things that were the same every single time that enabled me to get through and still be here talking to you. And those 3 things, 1, we had a very strong brand. The Cobra Beer brand was a strong brand. Here you're going to have the Bournemouth University brand behind you for the rest of your lives. Second, I had the support of my team and of my family, and in particular my wife. I met her 1 year after I started Cobra, and she's seen all the ups and downs over the journey. And without her support, I wouldn't be here talking to you. And the third thing that saw us through was the right values. It is better to fail doing the right thing than to succeed doing the wrong thing. And there is one word called integrity that sums it all up. And if I were to ask all of you, define the word integrity, you will say doing the right thing, honesty, trust, true to your word. All that's right. And the best definition of integrity that I've ever heard was when the Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, who's now Lord Williams in the House of Lords with me, when he was Archbishop of Canterbury, came to visit the Zoroastrian Parsi Centre in London, which I'm a patron of. It's one of the smallest communities in the world. And I welcomed him as a patron. And he then spoke. And he said, Lord Bilimoria has used the word integrity twice in his speech. The Zoroastrian Parsi community is renowned for its integrity. He said the word integrity comes from the Latin and Greek word integer, integrum, which means whole. You cannot practice integrity if you're fragmented in front of the light. You can only practice integrity if you are whole and complete. So if you practice integrity, believe you me, you can get through absolutely anything. Now, a couple of messages. While you're here, study hard, play hard, have a great time, but also, I want to ask you a question. And again, please, no right or wrong answer. Be honest to yourselves and to me. How many of you think you're creative? Just, if you think you're creative, put your hand up. If you think you're not creative, keep your hands down. So can you just, those who think creative, put your hands up? Let me see. Okay, thank you. When I ask this question anywhere in the world, about half the hands go up. Here it's maybe slightly more than half the hands went up. Throughout my childhood, school in India, college, when I went to university in India, university over here, I was told, Karan, you're good at your academics, you should do well, but you're not creative. Why? I was useless at art. I couldn't draw. Not creative. Karan, you will learn the piano. I passed grade 1. Please give up. You're tone deaf. Not creative. I went through my whole studies, education, thinking I was not creative. And then I started my own business. And I became an entrepreneur. And I realized that I was very creative. That is one of the most important skills in life, is the ability to be creative. And it had been suppressed through my whole childhood, through my whole youth. What a waste. If only we educated our children from primary school to have the confidence to be creative, the GDP of the world would double. So be creative. Don't be, if I can be creative, anyone can be creative. And it's so important. If I may say now, this country, Britain. What is this country? If you go to Imperial College, you go to Imperial College in London, in their main quadrangle there's a tower, and it's called the Queen's Tower. And you'll read a plaque at the bottom of the Queen's Tower. It says, this tower was built to commemorate the Golden Jubilee of Her Majesty Queen Victoria, Empress of India. Empress of India. That empire went. India gained its independence 70 years ago. So no empire, 65 million people. When I came here in the early 80s, sick man of Europe, loser economy, has-been country. And then I saw this country change. And I'll tell you what's changed in this country. Two things. One, entrepreneurship. When I came here, entrepreneurship was second-hand car salesman. Del boy, look down. Dodgy. Now it's cool to be an entrepreneur. Britain is one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the world. And the next thing, when I came here, my family and friends in India said, if you ever decide to stay and work after you finish your studies in Britain, remember you'll never get to the top. Because you're a foreigner, there will be a glass ceiling, and you will not be allowed to get to the top. 2.5, 3 decades ago, I'm sorry to say, my family were absolutely right. Today, they would absolutely be wrong. Today, this country has evolved into a multicultural, cosmopolitan, meritocratic, aspirational country where anyone can get anywhere regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of background. And I believe in my lifetime, we will see someone from abroad becoming Prime Minister of this country. Ireland has already done that. There's an Indian who's Prime Minister of Ireland. So this country is great. This country's got the best abilities, whether it's in design, whether it's in law, accounting, aerospace, engineering, our universities, best in the world, Oxford and Cambridge, number 1 and 2. Beer, best in the world. City of London, you name it, we have the finest abilities in this tiny country with 1% of the world's population. So you're lucky to be studying here. I wish you every success. And there's this wretched thing called Brexit going on. You will experience that as well when you're here. And I conclude with two things. Given the backdrop of Brexit, given the backdrop of what's going on in the world, I will finish with two things. One is to read you my favorite poem. It's a very short poem written by the Indian Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So the final thing I will say to you is this. One of the best things I've done in the 11 years that I've been in the House of Lords was to be on the committee that put up the statue of Mahatma Gandhi in Parliament Square in London. If you go to London, have a look at Parliament Square. There are 11 statues. That's it. Nelson Mandela was the one before Mahatma Gandhi. One of our challenges when we put this statue up was to keep it as far away from Winston Churchill's statue as possible. And there isn't a day when I don't drive past and I see people in front of Mahatma Gandhi, because his message was not just for India, it was for the world. And I leave you with this. my favorite saying, if I may paraphrase it, of Mahatma Gandhi's. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits form your character, and your character determines your destiny. Believe in yourselves, and good luck. Thank you.